Hi, everyone. I am super excited to be here. Today, we're going to talk about SuperForm. This is a masterclass. We're going to see some use cases and demos. I'm Michal Leiba. I work for Spot-nik for 3 years now. Very excited about that. Spot-nik is a #1 partner in the marketplace, a platinum partner. We have 5 products in the marketplace. We have SuperForm, which we're gonna talk about today a lot. We have Supermail, an app to send super emails. It helps you send automated emails and also dialogue emails, like emails on activities, if you know, just a little bit better. Supermail is another bestseller app. We have Workflow, another app of ours. It allows to avoid clutter, I'd say, to avoid clutter in a workflow, especially if you have many people doing the same project together and you want to make sure each person does their job in the relevant time. We have Inventory, which is self-explanatory, and we have Reporting, which is an app that was made to go over the gap that Monday has. Monday is beautifully doing something that is showing us live information, live data all the time. But sometimes we want to go back in time and we cannot do that in the Monday way. So that is what reporting does. It takes snapshots of data and then you can go back in time to really understand what you had at the time. So today we're going to talk about SuperForm. We're going to see the main features. SuperForm has 3 main features. Each are huge and amazing. SuperForm is my favorite product of ours. I think it's because it was launched on my birthday. Look it up, February 15th. That's my birthday. And so I think that I really love this app, and I'll talk about it a lot today. So we're going to talk about updating an existing item. We're going to see that in 4 different use cases. We're going to see powerful logics, how you can do logical filtering and showing questions and hiding questions. We're going to see how we can get informations from other boards into our form. And then we're going to see some other cool features. I really hope all of you are going to stay with me for the whole session. I will understand if not. So we have about 30 minutes that I'm going to talk. I do have a co-host here. I have Ram, who is on the Q&A. So feel free to write questions in the Q&A feature in the Zoom, and he will answer. And I will stop every couple of minutes to ask if you have any questions, and we will see how we can go from there. So let's dive in. The first use case I want to show you is a CRM use case. So I have this CRM where I'm getting leads from Facebook. The leads that I'm getting from Facebook are only email and name, okay? And then once the lead enters my board, I want to get more information from the user. And how do I do that? With SuperForm. So SuperForm, as I said before, allows you to update existing items. So I have a unique link for this specific item, and I can add the information to the item in the link. I've already opened the links here, but I'm going to show you just so you know I'm not fooling you. So if I click on this one, this is the unique link to Emily Johnson. Okay. So in this form, what I've actually done is I've shown these columns. I made them view only, and then I have added the questions that I want the person to add. I've done pagination, and I have to do required columns before I can move to the next page. Okay. And I have another page for the needs. Okay. So how do I do this? How do I configure this URL, this unique link for Emily Johnson? So the first thing I'm going to do is go to SuperForm View and make sure I'm in update mode. Okay. Insert and update. SuperForm has
And
2 types of forms. Insert, which means inserting an item into the board, and update, which means update an existing item in the board. To be able to update an existing item, we have to make sure we are in update mode. And then we have the link here. How do I create this link? Okay. So in this board, I already have I already have data. So I wanted to create a link to everything together. So I did it with a button, and then I just do this and click me, and then all the links will be created. But I can also have a recipe that will say that whenever an item is created, generate the links. So how do I do that? Go to integrate, search for SuperForm. There it is. Okay, so I've used this one, but we can also use this one. I'm a bit of a control freak, and usually I use this one because then I know, okay, whenever an item has entered my board, it will have a link. If I need it, I will use it. If I don't need it, I won't use it. Okay, so when an item is created, generate a link. I want to show you something important here is that when you click the update superform, if you have more than one superform in your board that is an update form, then you will need to choose here. It is possible to have more than one superform view in an update mode in your board. I did have a client where I had eight types, eight forms with different columns in each one of them. So every time I wanted to generate the link, I had to do to a different one. Okay. So after I created this and triggered, now I have the links. I want to show you now another use case of how you can use update an existing item in a CRM use case. Okay, so in my imagination, once the lead became a deal, this is an implementation type of deal. So I have a to-do list for the implementer. Okay, so the implementer will need to go here and go into his form. So I'm going to show it to you here. So I have this to-do list. Okay. So in this form, I know this is the deal with John, and I am the implementer, and I have this tasks that I need to do. I can add images, I can sign. Okay, I have my checklist to be done. I also have conditional questions, which we're going to talk about a bit later. Okay, and that's it. Okay, I'm not going to submit this now because I want to show it to you later. What is the value of this type of form in this use case? So a lot of the clients that talk to me, I have another hat. I didn't say that in the beginning. I'm a product manager at Spot-nik, but I'm also doing service and support. So when I talk to a lot of our clients, I understand that many of the users who use Superform use it for what I call field service. Okay, so someone goes out and they need to add information to the board when they are not by a computer and they cannot open the Monday board. And then some of them use the Monday app, but it doesn't always answer their needs. So it's easier for them to do it in a form. Or they just take the phone and they do the tasks that they need to fill in. They can add images, just take a shot with their phone and upload the image. So it's a lot easier for the end user to add information to our board with the Superform update existing item. Okay, so I want to show you some of the configuration here. So as I said before, when you create a form in an update mode, you have to move to update and then create the automation, the integration. But when you configure the form, you can do a lot of configurations in the form. Okay, you can hide or show. You can make a field to be in view only. You can make it required, conditional questions, all the things that you can think of. So in this use case of implementors, I also have another way of using Superform. So I showed you before the unique link. Okay. What if I, Michal, am an implementer going outside and I have 3 clients that I need to go to see today? I don't want to have 3 links that I have to go into each one of them, right? So what I can do is I can go here. When I go into the Superform view, I can click the share button. There it is, the preview or the share button. And this will actually give me a link to all the items in the board. I can also filter it by group. Okay, if I go here to the settings, then I can filter items by groups. And then I can create, this is something I've actually done for a client of ours. I created groups. Okay, so once an item is assigned to someone, it moves to a group in their name. And then I have 3 different views here by each view per group. Okay, and then Michal has her own link with her own information, and I can see only the items that are relevant to me. Okay, so this is the difference between the unique link and the general link.
There were another question about the plans. So you can use all features of Superform, and that Michal is not going to show all of them because they are too much. You can use them in all plans. We only bill by the usage. So you can build a very complex form with all the features, and if you don't use it, you won't be charged. So that's mostly. There are more
So the next thing I wanted to show you is another use case that would be a feedback form. When I have an event and I want to send a feedback form, I can do that with update existing item. So when I go into my board, I have added the columns for the ratings, okay, for the feedback and the questions that I want. And then I've created this form. I've also done something nice. I've used Supermail, our app, to send this nice email, and then you can click this link and it will open this nice form for feedback. That is the third type of use case of how to use update existing item. I do want to say that this type of form, the feedback type of form, is something that even Monday themselves use with SuperForm. Okay, so I know that the partnership, um, the partnerships use it to collect feedback from partners, and they use it after events. And a lot of teams in Monday use SuperForm for feedback and for updating existing items. The last one I wanted to show you for update an existing item is the orders. So I have this board of orders. And we're going to go through the insert type of form for how to enter the order. But what I wanted to show you is the update. Okay, so I can track my order in update type of form. Let's take this one and track the order. Okay, so I have notebooks and it's pending. Okay, and you can see it, it's in table view. We will talk about how sub-items work in a while, but just so you can see. So I have now showed you 4 ways of use cases that you can use updating existing item. So I can contact clients, I can ask for feedback, I can use it for field service, and I could let my end users follow their information that they have entered into my board. There are many use cases just to use this SuperForm. We have a lot of clients that are using it. I hope some of you are the clients who are using SuperForm for updating existing item. We are now gonna stop talking about update existing item, and I'm gonna move to another feature. Okay, we're now gonna talk about powerful logic. Okay, so in powerful logic, I want to show you the deals. Okay, so in this form, as I said before, the implementer's to-do list, I have set conditional questions. So if we can follow this form, I have a checklist of tasks that I need to do. Okay, so I add the app and I create an account and I set permissions, and then I have to check the sustainability. And look what happens when I do this. Okay, so when I move it to working on it, I have notes for sustainability. When I move it to stuck, I have notes for sustainability. When I move it to done, I have add documentation. But look, it's not only that this status column has added this, it had to be with all these questions. Okay, so if one of these is not done, then this one will not show. And how do I do that? The thing you need to know about configuring conditional questions in Superform is that you need to set the configuration in the question you want to condition. Okay, so I want the add documentation to be visible only when, and now I add the conditions. So you can see here I have 3 conditions. Okay, so when question create account is checked and set user permission and check sustainability is done. Why am I emphasizing the end? Because you can do and or. Okay, at the moment in Monday work form, or is the only possibility. Okay, so that's an advantage for Superform. So that is one way of doing like really cool logics. The next thing we can do is sub-items. With sub-items, we can actually build a lot of logics. So let's go into my orders board and see the main board, okay? So in my main board, I have the items, and each item has a sub-item. In this form, wait, I'll open the order form preview. What's nice about sub-items is that the sub-items work as a sub-form in SuperForm. So in this form, I'm actually showing you a few more features. Okay, so we have the side by side. I'm going to show you how to configure it later. And I have the pagination. I'm going to see that later with the titles and the logo here. And this is actually the section of the sub item. So I'm going to add a product. So my item level is my order, and my sub item level are the products in the order. Okay, so we're going to add a product. And here we can see another logic. I'm actually getting information from another board. We're going to see that again in another use case, in the event use case. Okay. In this use case, I've actually used our inventory product to get the products. Okay, but what we can see here is that I've taken notebooks. I have a mirror column of the price, and I can type that I want 5. And look, I also have formula. So what we see here is the logics. SuperForm supports connect, mirror, and formula columns. We have that here, and it's really, really nice. It helps us create a lot more use cases. Okay, then I can add another product. Let's take pilot pens. We're going to see they're very pricey. So I'm going to just take one. And then I also have the total price here. And as shown before, I can have a signature and save it and submit. So how do we configure the sub items? Okay, so I'm going to move here. This is the side by side. I'm going to show it for a second. Okay, so if I take this, I have one by one. By each field, I have the plus here, and then I can do this side by side columns. I'm going to show you this again at the end, but just for you to see. And I have a pagination here, and all of the questions are set in 2 pages. So now we're going to talk about the sub items. So if I want to configure the sub items, I can reach it in 2 ways. I can reach it from the form when I click this, or if I go to item columns and I go to the product, if I click it, I get into the sub item settings. Now, when I talk about sub items, I need to say we are talking first about the box of the sub items. We can set configurations for the whole box, and then we can set configurations for the questions inside that box. Okay, so as I said, the sub items are like a sub form. So we have the box of the form and the columns in the form. So we're going to start with the box. Okay, so the box I can hide and show, and I can make it required. I can choose whether I can edit, create, or delete. This is mainly important in update mode because sometimes I wouldn't want the end user to be able to edit the sub items or delete them. Okay, but I want them only to create. It depends on the use case. And I can also set condition questions for the whole box. Okay, so the whole box of the sub items will appear if a specific question has shown before. I am now remembering that I forgot to say, with conditional questions, we can do conditions only on questions that we know their answers to. So checkbox, status column, and dropdown. Okay, so that was that. So back to sub items. So condition questions, I can condition the whole box. Later on, we're going to see that we can condition the columns inside, but first, the whole box. Okay, the next thing we can do is decide if we have sub items in list view or in table view. So let's do again. Next, and products, and add sticky paper, and drive, and let's add notebooks, and 7, add. Okay, so now this is list view. Okay, when I open the list view, I have like an item card for each sub item. But if I switch to table view, then I can see it like this. Okay, I can see the information in a table. It's very nice, visible. It helps us. I do recommend using the table view if you have a small amount of columns. If it's long, then I wouldn't recommend it, because when you add a product, you have to add it like this, okay? And not in the sub form that we've seen before. Let's delete this and close. So that is the difference between table view and list view. One thing about that, if you know that the end user is going to use the form in mobile, use list view, because they will be in list view anyways. Okay, it's a resolution thing. So tables don't go well in mobile, so they're going to be in list view anyway. The next thing we can do is change the sub item button. This button, I can change it. Okay, here I called it add product. I can do whatever I want. And now this sub item name. Okay, so when we go into our table, we have the item name. In SuperForm, we can choose to hide the column in the form of the item name and of the sub item name, and move information, copy information from any column in the rest of the form, in the rest of the board, to the item name or the sub item name. So how do we do it? In the item level, I go into the form settings, okay, and I override name, and I just choose which column I want, okay? In the sub items, I choose the sub item name, and I just choose the relevant column that I want. So here I chose the product, okay? Now that's that. The next thing I want to do is go to the sub item columns. So I want to say, I know that Monday work forms have added the sub items in a beta in the past few weeks, but at the moment, they don't allow configuration in the columns in the sub items. So they allow configuration for the box, but not inside the box. We do allow. So in SuperForm, you have the configurations capability inside. Every configuration you do in the item level, you can do in the sub item level. Condition questions and all the logics that we've seen, and filter information, hide or show questions, all of that you can do in the sub item level and in the item level. Okay, so you can see these are my sub item columns, and some of them are hidden, and the user will not see them. The last thing I wanted to show you in an order form is, let's fill it again. My name is Michal, and test. Excuse me, I want it to be fast. And then I'm going to add my signature and save and submit. Now take a look at the thank you page. In my thank you page, I have this nice little button here, download PDF. So this is actually really nice for this kind of use case. So I have an order form, and I have the ability to download the PDF and open it and see the PDF of my order. Okay, so this is very useful for order forms, for any type of like contract between you and your end users. If you want them to have like a snapshot of what they filled, if you want them to have it. So how do we open this? So when we go to the settings, we scroll down here to allow PDF, and we open this. We can choose if we want to have a PDF, a column in our board for this file. So this PDF will enter even though the end user did not click the button. It will, every submission, you will have this file. So you see, right? Where is my copy? Oh, there it is. Okay, so every submission, I have this file. Okay, so that was sub items. I think I've said all of it. Yes. Okay. So any questions before I move to another more complex type of logics?
And I see a lot of questions regarding how to create the links for a specific item. So there is an automation. Yeah, so please show it. And if you want to create for the existing ones, you can just say it's an automation. As Michal, you can show it if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if I want, so when I go to integrate, I search for SuperForm. So we have the SuperForm buttons, SuperForm recipes. So if you have existing information in your board and you want to create a link to the existing information in the board, I recommend using this one or this one. Okay, so when button is clicked, generate link to update form and put link if it's a board like an order form, okay, and you have an item entering the board in the order form, okay, entering, and then I want the whole loop of the update, then I would use the when an item is created. So when I do this, when an item is created, generate link to, and then I need to choose the relevant SuperForm view that I have on the board. As I said before, we might have more than one SuperForm and an update, and I need to choose the relevant one, put it in a link column, and write the text. If we go into my managed recipes, okay, so we can see that I did the when a button is clicked, generate a link to, we need some more information. That is the SuperForm. I've put it in a link column, and I wrote the text more information. Okay. Does that answer the question for the unique links?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Okay.
Another question that I saw a few times is how do you communicate those links to the clients? Uh, you can the links are created by Superform, and then you can use your own communication tool to give it to the client. So we recommend, of course, Supermail, and you can build very nice designed mail and many more. But it's another 2 hours of speaking about only this app. But you can also use Monday emails or other notifications tools that you have of your own. So that Superform cannot communicate those links to the client. You can just choose your own way to do it. The information is in the board.
Yeah, I know that people use they have like this formulas that send with the WhatsApp, and people use it to IM with some other ways with using Make. We of course recommend using Supermail, which you can create a nice, beautifully designed email, and choose the information from the board and send with the link. The beautiful thing about sending an email with Supermail is that when you send the email, the link will be using the text. Okay. So your feedback would be the words in the form in the email. So I'm going to show it to you in a minute. Where is my participants and my email? You see? So we hope you enjoy the event and would love to get your feedback. So this is actually the link that I've put in my board. See right here. Okay. So that is the way to communicate the Superform links that we recommend. You can also use the Monday custom automation once it will work. Okay, so when status changes, then send email or notify. I can notify and send the email, or I can send email. Okay, and then in the email itself, use the link column. Okay, so I think that answers this question. Are we all good? Because I'm now going to talk about the most difficult thing for me to explain. So Superform has, I'm going to just jump back for a second to my agenda. So I'm going to show you, we're now going to talk about the fetch and display form from any board. So actually what I'm saying is Superform has the ability to take information from other boards and put it in the Superform and then add it into your specific form, to specific board. So for this, I'm going to take a use case of event enrollment. Okay. So I have 3 boards: events, participants, and venues. Okay, my form is in the participants board. All 3 of these boards are two-way connected. Okay, this is important. I know that the button is kind of hidden, but please, if you are planning to use this feature of taking information from other boards, make sure you're using the two-way connection between the boards. Okay. In this use case, I'm going to show you 2 ways of getting information from other boards. We're going to start easy and move on to the little more difficult, okay? So the easy one is connect and mirror. So as I said before, Superform supports connect and mirror columns, so it's pretty easy. I'm going to take here an event, and then I have the mirror information, and I also have the venues. But notice that this is not a mirror column. This is also a connect column, and I've set a dependency between them. Another thing I've done here is that if we go to the events board, we're going to see that I have 4 events, but in my form, I've seen only 2. So what I've actually done here is filter the information. Okay. Another thing I've done here is I've put the side-by-side questions, and I've added a widget. Okay. Now we're going to see all of the configuration of this form. Okay. So let's go into my participants board, go into my SuperForm mirror view. The word mirror is something I wrote for me, so it will be easier for me to understand which form I'm showing you. Okay. So I did the side by side. I showed you it before. I'm going to show it again. Okay. I click on the plus. I choose the email, and they're side by side. Okay. Now the event is a connect column. The event time is a mirror column, and the venue is another connect. Okay. In the event, I want to filter information, right? So I go here to connect board filter, and I can choose to add a dynamic filter or a static filter. What is the difference between the two? So a dynamic filter would be filtering a question versus another question, okay? The other question can be in a different board or in the same board if we're doing a sub-item and item level and sub-item level, okay? Static filter would be filtering a question based on its own, okay? We're going to see both of the filters here, so bear with me. So in events, okay, I wanted to filter the information from the event board. So I'm taking the dynamic filter where status in the events board is active. Notice I can choose the condition to is not, is empty, or is not empty. And I can choose the status label. Okay. So this is actually what is helping me to filter this information. The next thing I do is go and see my event time. What I wanted to show you about mirrors is that actually you don't have to do any configurations because it just shows you the information and it's very easy to use. I do want to say we have this tiny little button here, the toggle of aggregate. I want to show you what it does. Okay, so if it is now open and if we choose an event, it will show me the information like this. But if I switch it off, it will show me with the little label here. Why is this relevant? Because if I choose more than one item in the event, I can see them both. Okay. So it really depends on the use case that you're using to understand how to use the feature right. Okay. Since I'm using only one event, I wouldn't want this title to appear. So I do aggregate. I do want to say that if the mirror is a mirror of numbers, then aggregate will show you a sum because it aggregates the data. Okay. The next thing I wanted to show you is how we set dependencies between the venues and the events. Okay. So as I said before, I have a connection, a two-way connection between the events board and the venue board. When I go into my venue and I scroll all the way down, I have a depend on another connect board column. I choose the form field to depend on, which is this one. And then I choose the origin board and the origin column. So I'm choosing the event board, and in the event board, the venue column. So this is actually the dependency. Okay. So this is the way to set a dependency between two columns. I can set dependencies between clients and projects. I can set dependencies between locations or clients and contacts and whatever, two different boards, and I want to set dependency between them. I have to first set the two-way connection between the two and then use this set the dependency here. Okay. The last thing I wanted to show you about this form is the widgets. Okay. This is like really new. We've just launched this widget feature. In every field, if you click on the tiny little plus icon here, you can add text blocks, videos, iframes, images, dividers, and add questions. This one would actually work just like in the Monday work forms. Okay. You can add questions and it will add them to your board. So that is how we use the mirror information. Okay. So I'm going to fill in this form for a second and food preferences and submit. Okay. Now we're going to go into my board and we're going to see that this is the form I have entered. So remember, as I said, we have two ways of getting information to the board. I have with the connect columns, okay, which is this one. And this is good for a lot of use cases and it's easy to use, but it may have some cons. The first thing is if you want to do manipulations on the information. So I don't know if you know it, but with automations, you are a bit limited in using automations on mirror and connect columns. So if you need the mirror data and you need to trigger some automations based on it, you cannot. So that's that. And also, if you need to commit to an information that the end user filled in, so say it's an order form or an event that someone enrolled to and they had to pay for it, and after they submitted the form, you change the price, you cannot use mirror column because then the price in the board will change and you don't know what the price that the person, the end user saw. So in this case, I would use the static way of fetching information into static columns. So these are 3 text columns that I've added into my board, and I have made this form here where I can actually fetch information. Okay, I can set condition to take information from the events board into the event column here. So I go here to show values from another board. I choose the events board and the column that I want, and I can do the conditional filtering just the same as I did before. This is a static one because it's a question based on its own data. Okay. The next thing I want to do here is, you remember how when we used the mirror columns, we didn't have to do any configuration on the event time? Well, here we do need to do that because it's just a text number, a text column. So I'm going to take an event, take the information from the event board, take the date, and then I want to do a dynamic filter to set the dependency between these 2 questions, between the event and the event time. So when an event name in the events board equals the event name in SuperForm. Okay? I do the same for location, and that is that. So I think I've showed you everything. The last thing I didn't show you is restrictions. Okay.
Can you show how to add a signature column?
Oh, yes, sure. So,
Show the new one. Show the new one in this widgets.
okay.
The old one is the old way, and I think the new one is much better.
So that's not nice. Okay. So I'm going to add a question here and I'm add a signature, and then it is adding me the signature. Okay. So basically signature is a file column in your board. So you can either do it like this or go to your main table, add a file column, and then in the settings, switch the signature toggle here. If you use the widget, it will automatically add this. Now let's go back into my form. This is my fetch, right? So here it is. And then I can sign and save. Any other questions?
And you just gave me the next one. And in general, there were many questions like, can you do this with this field? Can you do this with this field? So if you will go to the SuperForm field settings, there are many surprises. Each field has its own settings. So for example, can you go to a number? Do you have a number column?
Yeah, I think so. Wait, not in this one, in the orders.
So in number, for example, you can set a minimum and maximum. And for drop down and connected board, you can make it single select or multiple select if you want, for example, the user to choose only one option. I try the settings and you may find great surprises in there. And also there was one question about if SuperForm supports only update, because that's indeed the best surprise of SuperForm in our opinion, but almost anything, I think everything, all the features is supporting both modes, and you can change it. Michal, can you show where you change between insert and update?
Yeah, okay, so this is an insert type of form, and when I click update here, it just switched this form to update. And now if I click the preview, I need to choose an item.
Yeah.
And if I go back here and I switch it to insert, I close this one, I'm going to click the preview, and it's an insert type of form.
Yeah. And all features stay the same. It all works.
I think maybe the only thing I didn't show is that in Subitems, in update mode, you have another capability, and that is filtering these sub-items. So if I go into the sub-item box, I can filter the sub-item information, so I can show only the pendings. So if I close this and if I preview, I preview this one and I choose an item. I'm having fun. Thank you guys for joining. Okay, so now I can see the stuck and pending. And if I add the filter again, so when the delivery is pending, this is case sensitive. So I'm going to see only this one. So that is that. The last thing I wanted to show that I don't want to forget is how we have restrictions. So you can have restrictions on insert form and on update forms. So the restrictions for insert forms are only like limit form in time range and response limit. But if I go to a form, an update type of form, I can now do restrictions per item, which is awesome because you can see I've added a column into my board with a date column and I've limited the form with date. So we're going to go here and we're going to see that I have two forms. One of them, the date is December 17th and one is December 2nd. And if we're going to watch these, okay, so this one is open and this one is restricted. So this is actually just because I have set these settings here. So that is really cool. So I think I've showed you everything. I've showed you restrictions. I've showed you paginations. I've showed you side-by-side and widgets. I think I didn't show you how you can do some design. So you have the layouts, the RTL. If you are Israeli and you want forms in Hebrew, you can do that. You can do design. You can choose background or add images. You can use the backgrounds that we have or add your own. You can switch the button, the color of the button. I do recommend using this button just because it is a CTA button. Okay, it's a CTA, call to action. Yeah. Okay. So it's been found to be the best CTA color, this blue. You can change the button. You can add a logo as I showed you here. And that's it. And restrictions. I think I went through everything. So now we can go back into my agenda. Okay, so we've seen the update existing item, which is the best feature of SuperForm. We've seen some powerful logics, how we can do conditional questions and how you can have filtering with static or dynamic filtering, as in question against another question or question against its own. But we can take information from other boards in two ways. We can take it from connect and mirror, and we can take it with static ways, like just taking information and like making a snapshot into my columns. We can do that into text columns and number columns, and I think date and other columns. As Ram said, if you go in through the field columns, field settings, you will see each column has a lot more capabilities. I have been talking for almost an hour and I think I should stop. So you can see we have more products. We are happy and we are working on a sixth one, which I think you will all love. I don't know if I could send a spoiler yet. I want to
Not yet, not
say
yet.
not yet. And I want to say thank you all for joining me. And if you have any questions, please contact us at support@spot-nik.com. I recommend whenever you have a question, open Loom. If you don't know it, you should. This is Loom here. Record it. Say what it is that you're struggling with and send it to us, and it will make our life easier to assist you. I am thrilled and thank you, thank you, thank you. And see you soon in the next webinar. Maybe Super Mail? I don't know. That's that. Was nice having you all.
I'm still answering questions, so if you have a
I'm not
question in your
closing.
line,
If
yeah,
someone
you
has
can
questions,
stay.
I'm here. I just stopped the share screen. We are here. If you see any questions that you think I should answer,
Maybe you can
oh, of
show the
course,
one
this will
asked.
be recorded.
Someone asked when I answer the questions, you can show. Someone asked, how can you create different type of automations? So I think we support in Superform. You can do it when button click and status change. And they ask, how can we support custom automation? So maybe you can show it's relevant also for Supermail, the middle automation, like the helper automation. Do you want to show how to use
Oh,
it?
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I answer, there are still 20 more questions. So I'm slow, but I will finish.
Okay. So if I want to do custom automations, like I want to have more than one trigger, I usually do it with Supermail. So I'm going to show it to you here. If I want to have more than one trigger. So it's not when column changes or when button is clicked, okay? If I want a specific, like when date arrives and if column is not empty and blah, blah, blah. So what I would do is I would use a status column as a helper, okay? I recommend using status and not button because button, you don't have any feedback that it was triggered, okay? So I recommend using status column, and then you just create a custom Monday automation to do the triggers that you want. So once it will work. So you can do when date arrives and if column is not empty, then change the assistant column to do the action and then use that assistant column. Why is it not working? Then use the assistant column that when it changes, it will trigger the automation if it's for Supermail or if it's for SuperForm to create the link. Okay. I hope that answers the question. I'm sorry that it didn't work to show it.
Okay, so I think that's all.
Thank you all for the beautiful questions. Yes, I can show Loom again. I don't know. I'm not sure I can show it to you here because I don't think it will open. But wait. If I do here, let's see if it works. So I open this. I just write Loom, and this is the way I record screens. This is like a recording that I've done, but I don't want this one. I just want the home page. Okay. So I have here all the videos that I ever do. Whenever I answer your questions, I do it with this. Okay, I open Loom and I add it. It's an add-on for your browser. I think it works on all browsers. I use it on Google Chrome. But it's very helpful. I think the free plan allows you for like 20 videos of 5 minutes each. It's not my product. I'm not selling it for you. It's just what I use, and it makes it very easy for me to send you information. Any other questions? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all. So nice. Yes, I probably will be super well the next one.
There is a question, it's probably connected to something you showed. It's a, how do I create a track your order link? I don't know what's track your order link, choosing
Yeah.
all the different steps that I want to show the customer.
Okay. So I'm gonna do this again. And a track your order link is actually an update form. Okay. So I took this form, I opened a SuperForm view, and it showed me all the columns. I hid the relevant columns and showed the relevant columns that I want. Okay, so I showed only the sub items, and in the sub item columns, I showed only specific columns. And I did put them in, I did not put them in view only, I think. Yeah, no, they can edit and everything. Okay. And then when they go into the form, they see it like this. As I said before, I can choose whether or not to put it in table view or in list view. So if it's in table view, it's like this. And if it's in list view, it's like this. And then I just generate the link as we've seen before with integrations to create the link, to put it in here, and then send the link however you want it.
I think that's it. A lot of thank you.
Yes. Okay. It
Yeah.
was amazing. Thank you all.